I want to show you guys something, but just wait there, right? Just hang around for a second. 1 sec, I'll be back. Stay there. You better be waiting. I'm coming. I told you, you weren't expecting it at all. It's very heavy. How does the camera work? Ooh, manual focus is cool, huh? The cursed Threadripper workstation is back. This time, I'm gonna be pulling it apart forever. But let's take a look at the journey and see how we got here. I need to align everything still and drill holes in line with where these pass-through fittings are gonna go on the top part of the backplate too. I actually need to get this board RMA'd. It's really frustrating that this happened. The reality is the board is dead. It's back, ladies and gents. Hopefully this is the last part in this whole water-cooled saga. This has been going on for like 3 months, and now to have it in its final form is just awesome to me. So I'm going to be rebuilding my editing PC again, this time with Threadripper Pro. After the motherboard dying and having to get it RMA'd earlier in the year, I fixed it up, I got it all working, and then I was using it for a little while, and then it just started to do some really weird things. So then I stopped using it. Then we got the Threadripper Pro set up, and then I decided that I was gonna switch to Threadripper Pro and start editing with it. Then I was having some other weird things happen with the system, and I always had that spare editing PC that I did a water-cooled build in. Well, I made it water-cooled rather. I'll put that in the top right if you want to check it out, and I'll put a link in the description. But after like having that system up and running, and I mean that was running the whole time anyway, it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to tinker with something you know that you've got that works perfectly, and especially because I use it for editing all the videos on the channel, sometimes it's hard to jump to a new system and whatnot to, you know, go through that whole process of editing. And it was at the point where I had both of the machines identical, and then the one that was my backup system, which has been my main editing system for ages, kind of just shifted, and I've just been using that. Probably 2 weeks after I switched to Threadripper Pro. The thing is, it's not the motherboard. I think it's quite literally, this case has bad juju and it's cursed. So we're gonna start fresh. So that's the idea I've got here is I'm gonna pull this whole quick disconnect water cooling system apart. And I know that when I built this, I said, the great thing about this is if I decide to upgrade the hardware later, it's gonna be really, really easy. And the whole idea of using a case like this is I won't need to change the case for many years. The only thing I'll need to do is really keep an eye on the water cooling components and just make sure everything is running nicely. The truth is, I just need to let this case go and move on to something else for this Threadripper Pro setup, which we're gonna do a whole nother video about. It's kind of ridiculous that we got to this point where I need to pull this all apart, but it is what it is. So we're gonna walk through draining it, doing all that stuff, pulling all the components out, and I've tried to do as little time lapse as possible, and I'll just chat to you guys and walk you through like why I made the decisions I did with this and what we're probably gonna do different in the next iteration of this cursed beast. So look at that, I prepared me removing it earlier. Look, it's clear in the reflection. That's the only time Claire likes being in videos, when she's not directly in videos. If you haven't seen all of the iterations of this system, I'll put a playlist in the description or a bunch of videos so you can watch it. But basically what this is, if you're new here, this is a full quick disconnect water cooling loop. So you can disconnect all of the water cooling gear without draining the loop. But obviously I'm pulling this whole thing apart now. So let's say you want to change your motherboard or whatnot, all you need to do, pop off these fittings. Still got coolant in them. It's still water cooled, but you know, you can just plug it in and away you go. But so this loop was designed to be drained really easily as well. So there's an inlet right at the top of the case, which will allow it to flow through, and the drain is right at the bottom of the loop. So the plan for this as well is to actually use the ASUS board for the next build, because I haven't used it yet. It's been sitting here for months. So we've got the Sage, a WRX80 Sage. This is the WRX80 SU8 IPMI from Gigabyte. We're gonna switch boards for the next PC. I haven't even picked the case or anything like that, but I do wanna get this apart It doesn't require all of the standoffs in the case as well, which I've removed. So there's like, you'll see, ready spaghetti. Alrighty. So it's only got a couple standoffs holding the board in. You can see that all of the middle standoffs have to be removed because there's no holes on the board to support it. So it's only supported along the edge of the board, which is also fine too. So don't worry about that. All right. The back comes off and you can see that everything's relatively cable managed. I'm a little bit sad to be doing this, to be honest, but you know, it's not getting used, and that's a problem to me. If I'm not using something, what's the point in keeping it together? Cut out all of the cable management stuff I did. This is really sad to me. I spent, how much time did I spend on this, Claire? Like weeks putting this together really nicely. Look how nice all of that is. Oh, I'm a bit sad. The power supply is mainly the thing I need to pull out here. I don't want to spill any water on it just in case, because you know, there is a possibility of that happening. And this is a very nice power supply. That was the great thing about this. It was so nicely managed that everything was just super modular, and I'd only need to unplug a couple things to allow me to get everything to come out nicely. I feel bad about it because it's just such a nice system, but there's something about this case that's just cursed and I can't put my finger on it. All right, gonna hook up my drain valve, just make sure this is all locked off, but there's a tap installed in the bottom of this for the purposes of doing this in this system too. So it's just gonna drain into the bucket on the floor. The other thing I need to do is open the fill port. I've built a fill port into the top of this. Crack that open so we get some air going into the top of the loop. We won't be able to tell if everything's being drained because every tube is opaque. So we're gonna just hope for the best. And I can guarantee you, this will get messy. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what happens. I'm not hopeful. It is the cursed PC after all. I love it. Oh, this coolant stinks though, honestly. It really, really stinks. I'll give it a bit of a, if we go that way. Cursed. Telling you, it's cursed. That's about as much as we can drain out. The rest of it's gonna be pretty messy from the looks of it, so which is what I was expecting. A trigger warning for people who are scared of water in computers, because this is most likely going to be messy. If not, then we're lucky. But yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, why would you mix water in computers? And I'm like, because it's cool. Like quite literally, it's cool. But looks like that top radiator is empty as it drops out water. Bloop. Bloop, it's okay. This stuff can get wet. It's no big deal, guys. It comes out top radiator. The beauty of this system as well is there's no RGB. So I didn't have to run additional RGB cables for anything. It's all just using EK Vada Evo fans, which I'm gonna reuse again in the next build because for my workstations, my computers live in places that I don't look at them, so I don't need to have RGB. Ooh, that dropped a lot harder than I expected it to. All right. Well, yep, that was dumb. I just made a mess all over the floor. Luckily, the studio's all tiles too. And this isn't colored coolant, so I don't care. Now that top rad's out, you can see the filling system that I had. So the fill port from here, to a little bit of soft tube to here, which goes straight down into the pump res, which is in the basement. It's a really overkill loop, which was only cooling the CPU, which actually had provisions to cool 2 GPUs as well. So that was the idea initially, but I just never got around to doing it. I don't know why, I just didn't. Right, time is never my friend. And that's the thing with building PCs and you know, building PCs, loving building PCs and making content about doing the same thing. Your own personal hardware gets neglected. You don't get to spend enough time with getting it up and running. You just need it to work all of the time, and that's the failing of this system really, is time. You never have heaps of it. Today I thought was the perfect day to have a bit of a funeral for this cursed PC, because this thing gave me lots of problems. It was running really well for about 3 months at the start of the year, and then after that, board needed to be RMA'd. It was just a headache after that. It was just annoying me. And I didn't have the heart to pull it apart until now. Sometimes I wish I could explain to you guys how frustrating this can be. Because these are like all fittings in really bizarre places. And it wasn't designed to be serviceable in the way that you could just remove a radiator. So, this is gonna sprout a leak, unfortunately, which is okay. This is okay. This is all good, because now we've got that 420 out, and that has made a heck of a mess. If you haven't seen the original mod where I did all of this, I showed how I put this together, but essentially what this is a manifold, and this distributes the water basically as a feed and return line for anything that plugs in. So that's the way that this was designed. So you could literally just modularly plug stuff in and away you went. I've decided not to pull out this mid plate because I think I can get away with just undoing the screws, taking out the whole apparatus that way without having to remove the mid plate in this case, because it's a bit of a pain in the butt. All right, that's now loosened, and with a bit of luck, come on, you it's just moving ever so slightly. Come on. So close. Does not take 5 minutes to undo a fitting. And there it is. A manifold. I just poured that everywhere. I was just so over it. I was just like, nah, oh, this one's not gonna come out without a fight. That's the whole pass-through fitting coming out. This is a mess. I'm actually covered in water. A year-old coolant does not smell good, ladies and gents. Oh, it's disgusting. That's basically it. I still need to pull out the pump res combo out of the basement, which I'm gonna do off camera because I'm absolutely drenched. All right, this is the aftermath of all of it. There's still water and stuff all over the floor, and I still need to pack all this away, and then there's all of that to deal with. But this is what it looks like when I pull stuff apart on camera, right? You see me pulling stuff out, but it ends up in like this whole pile on the floor. Look, there's the other radiator, there's the power supply, there's the case. Still need to do some stuff with that. But yeah, this is the end of the era of that PC. And to be honest, a bit sad, but I couldn't be happier. Thanks for hanging out with me while I did this. I wasn't even gonna make this video at all, but I figured since you guys saw me put it all together and like where this whole inception of this project started, it was only fitting that you got to see how it ended, and it ended with a lot of coolant all over the studio. Which apparently, according to Claire, I've been in trouble. I still need to clean a bunch of it up, but you saw the aftermath. So I'm gonna go and do that. But if you guys liked the video, you know what to do. Hit the like button. If you hated it, hit the dislike button twice. I'll put links to all the parts of this, whole thing in the description. But I feel like the only way to take us out of this whole series is to look at a happier time when this thing was all together and fully functioning. So let's do that.